There are only a few experiences that I still remember as vividly as the first time that I played Outlast. Even though it's almost 10 years old, it still stands apart as one of the best horror games of all time. You play as a reporter who breaks into a mysterious asylum to document what's going on, but quickly you become trapped inside and must find a way out. And I think the game does so much right to build up that feeling of fear. Now, even though it's a game, these same concepts apply to movies or TV shows, which we usually talk about here. So let's talk about how to build up fear, with Outlast as an example. Now, I think everyone knows that one thing humans really fear is uncertainty, and in horror, when something is unknown, it's usually a lot scarier than if it's shown outright. My favorite example of this is in a movie that I really love called Sinister. I know I bring this movie up quite a bit, but there's one moment that still freaks me out to this day, even after watching it like 100 times, and that is when we first see Bagul in the pool. I think this scene hits the perfect balance of giving us just enough information that we can be afraid of something, but it's not really visible. We only get incredibly vague facial details, and it makes this moment really uneasy. Personally, I think this moment is a lot scarier than when we see his face fully towards the end. Once you see it, even though it's still creepy, you're like, okay, that's it. But this always freaks me out. Now, Outlast does a number of things to bank on this fear of the unknown. One thing that you probably noticed by now is that you're given a camera with night vision capabilities, and this feature adds a lot of mystery to the environment. The way night vision works is that the camera shoots out some infrared light that isn't visible to the human eye. However, the light doesn't have a long range. The night vision is only visible for maybe 30 feet. This creates this really unique look where the brightness gradually tapers off into total blackness. So we're given a tool to help us see in the dark, but by and large we are still blind. We don't know what's in there. And this night vision feature really allows you to see some incredibly memorable scenes. Probably one of my favorite moments, visually speaking, comes when you're trying to escape through the sewers. Towards the end of this level, you are in a huge pool of waist-high water. You can see the water, but pretty much nothing else. Then you begin hearing the footsteps of the main villain. They're far off in the distance at first, but they gradually come closer. You hectically turn around to try to orient yourself and see where the noise is coming from, but everything looks the same. And because you're in a giant hall, the echo is so strong that you can't locate where the footsteps are coming from by the sound alone. This moment perfectly captures that feeling of being completely lost and helpless. The night vision is such a smart way to always provide creepy dark shadows no matter where you are. It also ensures that a lot of the time, you get a really bad look at whoever is trying to hurt you. You just get a pair of eyes or really basic features, but rarely anything specific. But probably the biggest feature of Outlast that adds to the creepiness is the suspense. Now, after you break into the asylum, you see that the staff members are either missing or dead, and the halls are full of patients cowering in corners or killing each other. And some of these guys are after you as well. A significant part of the game is actually spent hiding, under beds and air ducts and sometimes in lockers. That's because you can't fight, you can only run and hide. Now, even though you relatively quickly figure out that you can't be caught in these places unless the enemy literally sees you getting into the locker, it's really more about the race. There aren't that many movies or games where I get that sense of exhilaration as when you're being chased by one of these creepy guys and you race back to the locker you saw earlier in order to hide away from them. As you're being chased, there is always that question of will I make it to the safe space, and that makes this game so extremely intense. There is still one level that I kind of hate playing because of how intense I think it is, and that is the Dr. Traeger level. After coming out of the sewers, you get chased by a few aggressive inmates. You run into a room that doesn't have an exit, and the guys are slowly knocking down the door. Suddenly a small dumbwaiter comes down, and you hear a friendly voice that offers some help. All you need to do is get into the dumbwaiter. Well, after you do, you ride it all the way up, and you meet Dr. Traeger.
You're in the right place here, buddy.
He cuts off 2 of your fingers, but you manage to escape after he walks out of the room. Then you have to navigate his floor in order to find the keys to the elevator without being caught. And this is one of the craziest levels in the game. The hallways are extremely narrow and there's almost no room for error. These chases where you come so close to being caught are to me one of the most intense things that I've ever experienced in horror games. The scariest part isn't being killed, that is scary for about a second, but it's the anticipation of being caught, that moment where you come so close to being killed right before you make it to the safe place. That's what's so exciting. A lot of the game is also exploration, and most of the time we don't know what's inside that open door or down that corridor. We're also shown early on that it's entirely possible that there are insane people behind these doors that are just waiting to jump out at you. It makes almost every step into a new level filled with anxiety. This is probably highlighted best in the sequel called Outlast Whistleblower. Early on there's a level where you enter an empty room. Then you begin hearing an automatic handsaw winding up. You know that someone's there with a dangerous weapon, but you don't know where that guy is. You don't know if he's going to jump out at you, and if so, you don't know out of which one of the 12 doors it will be. You just have to slowly walk through the room and see what happens. But all of this could get very tiring very fast, so there's actually something added in that always keeps you on your toes, and that is that not everybody tries to kill you. Instead of just making everyone that looks slightly different than you be automatically evil, the game actually throws you a lot of curveballs. Most of these guys really don't want to harm you. It almost makes you feel bad as you realize that a lot of the inmates here are just these poor, abused people that don't want to hurt anyone. So you never know if someone you approach in a dark hallway is trying to hurt you. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. But it goes even further than that. Sometimes there are enemies that will only jump out at you once, making you think they want to murder you, only to realize that they were begging for help. There are also some inmates that will follow you around for no reason, and a few guys that will hit you once and then run off like they were scared of you and acted in self-defense. It's always this mystery component that adds to the scariness. One character that really stands out here is a preacher that you meet early on. You don't know if you can trust him. He stops you from leaving the place, however he does give you clues on where to go next so that you keep making progress. You're kind of forced to trust him, but only because you have literally no one else to turn to. This makes it quite a strange dynamic, and it also keeps his intentions in the dark until the end almost. Now something else that shows incredible attention to detail is the music. The music in a video or a movie usually tells about half of this story. In horror it's even more. Music can do a lot to really drive the emotion of the entire creative work, and Outlast has an amazing original score. It's scary and creepy, but also beautiful in a way. It's so dramatic, heavy, and tragic, and it gives you almost a sense of sympathy. The music feels like it highlights the pain of the inmates. Like the people you see here have been through so much torture and are in so much pain, and you don't want to end up like them, so you better get the hell out of here. All of these aspects have a mysterious tone and keep you in the dark, sometimes literally. I think it's pretty common to hear the phrase fear of the unknown, but Outlast really took that concept and effectively employed it in almost every stage of the story. In a way, the entire game feels like that creepy moment from Sinister, where you're just given a glimpse of the evil and your mind fills in the rest. That's also why I think a lot of people kind of dislike the ending, as the mystery is over. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked it and that I get to see you guys in the next video.